afternoon. Well, it's Friday. It's a lovely day out there, and I've got finished reasonably early from work. Always a good thing. And I thought I'd do another one of these Talk West Ham episodes. I did one the other day. It seems to be quite well received. I thought, why not? Let's go again. There's a few things that are out there to do with West Ham out there on the internet, which I shall bring to your attention shortly. Some of them you might already be aware of. Some of them you might not. Anyway, little bit of housekeeping. As usual, guys, thanks for coming along. Please don't forget to like, comment on, and share this stream to your social media platforms. It really does help tremendously the channel. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and hit that bell icon, and you will be notified of any new content as and when it's added to the channel. As always, we thank you very much indeed for your support in this matter. Also, if I could please ask you to give some support to the Iron Supporting Food Banks charity. You've got the link on the banner just there in front of you. You can just Google it, Iron Supporting Food Banks. It's a really tremendous charity that operates in the Newham Borough that's helping out families that are going through tough times. We've obviously come through COVID, and then we've got a cost of living crisis. And I'm very fortunate that I'm in a position where I don't have to make certain choices that maybe other families that are not so lucky as mine have to make. So, guys, if you've got a few spare quid, get me teeth out, words will follow. Please go onto that website there, and they're doing some really good work for families in the Newham Borough that are struggling. So please consider helping out those less fortunate, and we thank you again for your support in this matter. Okay, so got a few little things to bring to the table. I shall just go and add this to the stream. Thus, you've probably heard about this. This is the players that have been released, or the retain list as it's called. And this was put on the official website a little bit earlier on. I'll just go full screen with this so you guys can see it, for those of you that haven't already done so. And it basically says, and there's not really any great shocks here. I mean, obviously, Mark Noble has retired. And it also confirms what we pretty much already knew, that Andrei Yarmolenko will be on his way. 4 seasons. Injury hit, I think it's fair to say. He had that bad Achilles injury. I think he got that against Tottenham at London Stadium from memory. And 86 appearances, 13 goals, 7 assists. He obviously got a few memorable goals. Obviously, the goal against Chelsea after the Project Restart. The goal in not that it was memorable in terms of its quality, because from what I remember, it looped up. But in the last game of that season, which got us a draw at home to Villa, and then obviously against Seville, against Aston Villa this season. But it was a transfer that promised an awful lot, but delivered very little, if we're being honest, pound for pound. Also, Ryan Fredericks has moved on. Again, I mean, he's moving on. He's didn't cost us anything as far as a transfer fee is concerned, and we're losing him for the same value. So 77 appearances and 6 assists, 3 goals. Decent enough player, but he's dropped down the pecking order. He's got ahead of him. He's got Vladimir Kufal. He's got Ben Johnson. He's possibly got Harrison Ashby snapping at his heels next season. 30 years of age now. And again, another player that's been bedeviled by injuries. So again, a player that I wish well, but I'm not really sort of crying too many tears about him leaving. The next guy, again, a player that probably, in terms of playing minutes, has not really contributed an awful lot. It says there 5 Premier League appearances, one of which was obviously his debut at Stamford Bridge in a memorable 1-0 win. But David Martin has been released as far as a player's concerned. I wouldn't be averse to him coming back as a goalkeeping coach, but as far as his playing days are concerned at West Ham, they are numbered. As far as the development players are concerned, we've also released Nathan Holland. I think he was a player that came in with an awful lot of promise, but again has been bedeviled by injuries just happening at the wrong times. And also leaving alongside him will be Jaden Fevrier, Bernardo Rosa, Amadou Diallo, and Osama Ashley, along with Scholar Isaac Evans, again, players that probably realistically, with the best will in the world, didn't have any real chance of making the breakthrough to the first team. But they're the players that have been released. So it leaves David Moyes in a position where he's got an awful lot of surgery to do, because I think it's fair to say you can add to that list Alex Crowell. I mean, his name obviously hasn't been mentioned yet, but I don't really see any scenario in which Alex Crowell is going to be retained. So that's another player that you can add to the list of players that are going out of the door. And we're still not entirely certain if it will be Alphonse Areola that will be retained for next season. So there you go. I'm just going to turn my attention to the comments, guys, and just see if any of you are sort of like chipping in. And I've looked here, and Mr. Cox is there. Hope you are well, sir. Gaza, I am very good. Don't you start, Mr. Miles. Just because you're still got your backside in the office, or are you working from home today, mate? Hope you're well. A few people just saying hello to each other. Joan, hello, welcome along. And Gaza, and they're all just saying hello. Jones just chipped in to say, sorry to see Fredericks go, but understandable. Yeah, I mean, I don't wish the guy any ill will. And when he's been called upon, he's done a decent enough job. I think that, like I say, he's got very unlucky with injuries at the wrong time. And probably defensively a little bit suspect, but his pace always managed to give him a fighting chance of retrieving situations that maybe he got himself into because of just his defensive indiscipline, if you will. But I wish the guy well. As I say, he came as a free transfer and he leaves in exactly the same fashion. Gaza says it'd be sad to see if Souček goes as well. Yeah, I mean, this is rumbling on, and there's talk that he's had a falling out with David Moyes, and that David Moyes is agreeable to letting him go if there's a suitable offer that comes in. To be honest, that's not terribly revelatory. I mean, I think that every player realistically has a price at which the hierarchy will say we can't really turn that offer away. I mean, even Declan Rice, let's be completely honest. If someone came in the summer with a ridiculous offer, so I'm talking 150, 175 and beyond, I would consider that to be an offer that we can't turn that down. We simply can't. I want to be able to say no, but there comes a point at which you have to say that it just makes sense to cash in. But I like I say, every player has their price. Souček, on the basis of this season, I think that I can understand why David Moyes might be looking at other options, but I still think there's a player in there. I think that he's been overused. Jones says we've really needed Fredericks at times, so we need to get back up in or play Ashby. That would be good. I think he's the next cab off the rank. I think realistically he's going to be challenging Soufal and Johnson. I think if we don't get a left back in, and we'll cover that in a minute, but I think if we don't get a left back in, then it will probably be Johnson will be vying with Cresswell for the left back slot, and it will probably be Ashby that will be giving Soufal a little bit of competition. But obviously the nice thing is that Johnson can move from one side to the other, gives a little bit of flexibility. 18 senior players, that is correct, Mr. Miles. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of players that we've been linked with. Areola, as you say there, Miles, he's the first one that you've mentioned. Aguerd, I'm hearing that is fairly close to completion. Lingard, I mean, that's been going on for the last year, and I'm getting a little bit bored of it. I'm like, look, if he comes, he comes. If he doesn't, he doesn't. James Ward-Prowse, 75 million quid. Too much, in my opinion. I just think that is too much. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a cracking player. Set piece delivery. He's a captain, so he's obviously got leadership qualities and all the rest of it. He's an England international as well. But I think 75 million is a bit too much for me. I really do think it's a bit rich. And yes, Wally will be upset that Fredericks is off ski, but I'm sure he'll get over it. Okay, right. Now, this is a story that I was made aware of a little bit earlier because I'm on a WhatsApp group, and in fact, it was Mr. Miles that I believe, if I remember correctly, Milesy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that brought it to my attention, and it's Yves Bissouma. Now, Yves Bissouma is currently on the books at Brighton and Hove Albion, who we obviously played on the last game of the Premier League season. And he's a player that's been linked with us quite regularly over the last year or so. And obviously, if Thomas Souček is going to move on, I suspect that this might be someone that replaces him. He's quite a good candidate. Now, he has 12 months on his current... I'll tell you what, let me just go... Oh, I've gone full screen with it. On his current deal at Brighton. So it's basically in the territory that they either need to get him to sign a new contract to extend his time there, or they're going to have to sell him because he's going to go for absolutely nothing. And he's one of their star players. And just looking here, the story basically relates to the fact that his social media post, his Instagram account, I do believe, was updated, and he's basically any photographs that have associated with Brighton and Hove Albion have been removed, and he's included a hammer emoji, which is obviously our club symbol. Now, I am also in another WhatsApp group. I'm actually on a Hammers Chat WhatsApp group, and Gio actually made the point, and it's a fairly pertinent observation, is that it shouldn't necessarily be assumed that just because he's put a crossed hammer symbol that instantly means he's coming to West Ham. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but he made the point that there's it's a symbol of some sort of anti-slavery symbol in for African players. So, and I do remember that Christian Benteke, now I know he's Belgian, but he's obviously of African descent. He last season, he was initially released by Crystal Palace and then re-signed a new deal when Patrick Vieira came into the club. And just shortly before this happened, there was a post that I remember where he was working out in a gym, and he'd put a post, a symbol of a pair of crossed hammers. And everybody went into meltdown. Everybody was like, oh, Christian Benteke signing for West Ham. And of course he didn't. So I don't necessarily subscribe to the notion that just because he's put this crossed hammer symbol means he must be coming to West Ham. I'm not saying that he isn't. I accept that he may well do. And if he came to West Ham, I'd be absolutely pleased as punch. But I don't necessarily subscribe to the fact that just because he's put a set of crossed hammers on his social media post that he's definitely coming to London Stadium. But you might have an alternate view. So get your comments in the chat. We'll cover it off. But Yves Bissouma is a fantastic player. He's got obviously Premier League experience. He's a Mali international. And if he came in to London Stadium, yeah, I think that would be a good move. Okay, so I'm just going to have a quick look back at the comments that have come in. I've heard Southampton the latest team to show in interest. Yes, in Fredericks, yes. There was a story that I've put out. There's a weird one, and I know this is Talk West Ham, but just to sort of, you've mentioned it, Gazza, about Southampton. Have you heard this story about Ralph Hasenhüttl's backroom staff? His number two, his assistant manager, his head coach, whatever. Kelvin Davis, Dave Watson, and Craig Fleming have all been given the push by Southampton Football Club, but Ralph Hasenhüttl remains. I just think that's really weird. And I just wonder, is that Southampton's way of trying to sort of get Ralph Hasenhüttl out the door, because they were crap in the last sort of quarter of the season or so. But anyway, that's Southampton's problem. As I say, this is Talk West Ham, so we'll try and keep it on topic. Miles's come in. He says he thinks Arthur will leave also. So keen Lewis Potter to replace him. Left back, a tough one. We've been linked with a couple. Owen Window, a great talent, young and quick. There is a left back that I've got to cover in a minute, Milesy. So, well, I say he's a left back. He's a left back come left centre back. So you might have worked out who he is. In fact, you've mentioned him there, Gazza. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I'll go to that one next. And we'll get your opinions on it. Okay, so I'll share that tab instead and bring that to you right now, since you have mentioned him. Okay, so Calvin Bassey. Now, he is there's a £25 million price tag. So it says here that we will have to pay a £25 million to Rangers defender Calvin Bassey. Now, he's a Nigerian international. He obviously played a key role in the run to the Europa League that Rangers had. They came up short, penalty shootout. He also played in their win in the Scottish Cup, and he was their man of the match in both finals. Now, he also, however, is on the radar of Aston Villa. Now, obviously, that's a fairly... there's going to be a bit of a draw there for him, because, of course, Calvin Bassey worked with Steven Gerrard in their time at Rangers. So does that possibly give Aston Villa a little bit of an advantage over us? Possibly. Although we've obviously got European football, so Aston Villa don't. So we have to try and leverage any advantage that we can get. I mean, he's 22 years of age, so he's still yet to hit his peak. And he's just played in a European final and been man of the match. As I say, he's got a bit of versatility about him as well. He's a left back. He's also a left centre back. So he can flip between the two roles. We've got Cresswell, who's at left back at the moment, and he's been a fantastic servant for the club. But I think it's fair to say that he has less days in front of him than he has behind. And left centre back, well, again, that's a position that if everybody was fit and firing, you'd probably say that Angelo Ogbonna would be in that spot. But obviously, he's coming off the back of an ACL injury. He's in his mid-30s now. You're not quite sure what version of Ogbonna's going to come back. So it's a bit of a little bit of versatility. I think that's a good thing. So in this particular instance, but again, give me your thoughts. Calvin Bassey, I think he'd be a great signing, because, like I say, he can cover the positions. 25 million quid for a 22-year-old international who's got European experience, mate. That's a bargain. It is, as far as I'm concerned. That is a bargain. I think we need to get this kid in, but will we pay the money? Will we put 25 million quid on the table? That's the thing. Let's just have a look at some of your comments. Joan agrees she'd love to sign Bissouma. Gaza says, yeah, I agree. Gatesy on Lingard. Yeah, like I say, with Lingard, if he comes in, fantastic. But, you know, if he doesn't, well, good luck in the rest of your career, Jesse. And next time we see you, hopefully you don't bend it into the top corner like you did the last time we crossed paths, but never mind. Milesy, oh, sorry, I thought you was going to talk Andy Carroll having a party, bring your vodka and your... Yeah. Listen, he's not a West Ham player anymore, so I probably shouldn't speak too much about the allegations that are out there. I'm sure you're all aware of it, but we'll leave that one there. Jones says, Gazaride signed Bassey too. Give me the checkbook. I wonder if he's related to Shirley Bassey. Don't know. Gaza says, Joan, as long as it's... there you go. As if by magic. Statman Stubbs, hope you're well, sir. And thank you for coming along and joining in the chaos. I'm just going to rattle through some of these comments here. As I say, I love the interaction, but sometimes I get a bit overwhelmed because I start talking about something and all the comments come in. And I want to try and get as many of you guys up on the screen as possible. Peter, thanks for coming along, my friend. Hope you are well and having a good Friday afternoon. Richard says, all good, thanks. He's in the office, he's in and out. He's a busy man. I believe Shirley Bassey is still alive, but yeah, she will be ploughing on a little bit in age, but there you go. Yeah, she must be about that. Statman Stubb says, Liverpool fan here. West Ham are a fantastic club. Fingers crossed you can get to a final next season and hopefully a strong season next season. Massive respect for Hammers fans. Statman Stubbs, do appreciate the kind words. Good luck tomorrow in your final at the Stade de France against Real Madrid. Two absolutely brilliant clubs in terms of their history in European football. I mean, what Real Madrid, 13 times winners of the European Cup / Champions League. Liverpool, 6-time winners. They've played each other in 2 previous finals, I do believe. They've obviously played, 2018, which was the game where Karius had a bit of a nightmare. And then they played another game, I think it was 1981, wasn't it? So I believe it's 1-1 at the minute in terms of their European Cup final clashes. So this is the trilogy. So who's going to do it? I think it's going to be a really entertaining game. I don't think that either team's going to be sitting back. May the best team win. How much have you got to spend? That's a very good question, Gaza. A really good question. I think we need, minimum, with the surgery that, in my opinion, we need, and in the areas, minimum 120, 150, something in that region. If we've got any more than that, fantastic. But I think that's the baseline. So, yeah, and Peach is in the building. Hope you are well, my friend. Just a few little comments I'm just going to go through and just see if there's anything to get my teeth into it. Milesy, I'm really worried about Villa at the moment. They're spending a lot of money and wages are really high. James Tarkowski has been offered double his salary, 120k a week. Listen, if Villa are going to be spending that money, Gerrard's going to be under an awful lot of pressure next season to do something, whether that's to win a cup or to get European qualification. He needs to do something. There's a pressure that comes with spending that sort of money, but we'll see. As far as them offering James Tarkowski 120k, he ain't worth that in my opinion. But then again, because he's a free agent, he can leverage that fact against, well, you aren't paying a transfer fee, so I want a little slice of the pie. I don't blame him for it. If he can get it, good on him. Let's just have a look here. So we got just a few little back and forth. Have Villa just signed a left back from Spain? That's Diego Carlos. Yeah, I think that's who you're referring to. So they're getting their business done early, which I always think is a good thing, because they can be there first game, first training session after their break, first game after for pre-season, and get to know their teammates and work on all sorts of different strategy. I hate it when we make signings right at the death of the transfer window, because it's like, well, we've had pre-season and we're now into the season, and we don't know how they're going to integrate with the squad. We don't know how they're going to integrate with the coaching staff, and we've already started. So there you go. Yeah, I was gutted, mate. I went to I went to Lyon, I went to Frankfurt, and I was keeping my fingers crossed I was going to get to Seville, but it is what it is. Some things are just not meant to be. But it's in Prague next season, which is a lovely city, so I'm led to believe. Good beer, and yeah, it's hopefully we can get to that final. Did anybody see the Conference League final the other day? I did. It was despite the fact it was held obviously in Albania, it's a smaller stadium, but it was much more intimate. It seemed quite a good atmosphere, and yeah, look, if we can get to the final next season, I really couldn't care less. I think people will probably turn their nose up at it. There's certain clubs out there that if they were in the Conference League, they would feel it's an inferior competition. And I'm not naming names. There was a team last season that thought that they were bigger than the competition. You can work the rest out for yourself. But yeah, I'd be perfectly cool if we lifted that trophy. Cornet, this is the second time you've done this. This is the second time you've done this, Gaza. That is a story that I have got somewhere. Let me just have a look. There's a couple of tabs that I've got open. Where is it? Here we go. Right, we'll share this one and go with that one. So I'll just get rid of the what's name. So here we go. This is from One Football, via the One Football website, and it's Football League World. This was yesterday, and it says that we are weighing up a transfer swoop for the Burnley player Maxwell Cornet, but Everton are in direct competition with us. So it says we're both keeping tabs on him, who is expected to leave. Obviously, Burnley got relegated. Now, apparently, he's got a clause in his contract for 17.5 million, that if Burnley got relegated, which where they obviously did, that if someone came in with a fee of 17.5 million, that would trigger a release clause. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get 17.5 million, I would wager, because if Burnley are in financial dire straits, it may well be that they might want 17.5 million. But let's be honest, if let's say West Ham were the only club that were interested in, and West Ham went in and lowballed them and said, tell you what, we'll give you 12 million for him. It's like, well, what are Burnley going to do? It's like, well, it's either 12 million or he stays here. He's probably not going to be happy. He's probably going to cause a problem with his attitude or whatever. Let's just get the 12 million and be done with it. Like I say, 12 million, 17.5 million release clause is all very well and good, but with the situation that Burnley in, beggars can't be choosers at the end of the day. Maxwell Cornet as a player at West Ham, I think would be really good. I think he'd be a really good signing. I just wouldn't have him on penalties, because obviously we remember the game a month or two ago, wasn't it, at London Stadium? They were 1-0 up, Burnley, and he got a penalty and absolutely fluffed it. So I wouldn't have him on penalty detail, that's for sure. But Maxwell Cornet, I mean, he can play at left back. He can play left wing. I think he can play right wing as well. So again, we know David Moyes likes a bit of versatility. The one thing that I do wonder, I've heard whispers about his attitude, his work ethic, whatever. But then again, I mean, I make the point that David Moyes dealt with a fairly high maintenance players in the past. And one such example in his first spell at West Ham was Marko Arnautovic. Marko Arnautovic was very much a problem child. Dealt with him. So, but yeah, I'd go for Cornet. I've been saying for a little while that Cornet would be a player I'd be very, very interested in. But it needs to be for the right price. I mean, I don't think, like I say, I think that if we could go in there and get him for a decent price, as I say, Burnley possibly are going to need to get him out the door. So Peter says here, apparently there's a really tight wage cap for the year on the squad and players we bring in. Well, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see what happens. Just going to go through some of your comments here, guys. I say, Joan says she enjoyed the Conference League final. Please for Jose. And of course, with him winning it, in theory, he's actually won. He's won the European Cup, obviously. He's won the UEFA Cup or Europa League. He's won, obviously, the Conference League. And he's also won the Cup Winners' Cup. People forget this because he was on the books at Barcelona when they won it in 97. So he's actually won all 4 of the trophies that in Europe, one of which is now obviously defunct. So not a good match, but Mourinho has now won 5 European trophies with 5 clubs. There you go. Smalling got man of the match and looked to beast. I tell you what, yeah, he had a really good game. Really good game. And I did sit there and I thought, Chris Smalling, could he be an option? I mean, he's not been linked. So this is not me. This is not a story that I've got to bring to you. Chris Smalling to West Ham. But I did look at it and I thought, hang on a minute. I mean, he's 32, I think. He's not a player that's got a particularly bad injury record. I mean, he's had injuries here and there, but it's nothing major from what I can remember. And he's obviously got European experience. He's an England international. And you could probably get him for a decent price. I think like I say, he had a really good game. And I believe he's played well for Jose Mourinho in Rome. So, yeah. Looking forward to Huddersfield Forest playoff. Yeah. 2 obviously very historical clubs. I mean, Forest, 2-time back-to-back winners of the European Cup under Clough. And Huddersfield, a very historical club because they won the league title in 3 consecutive seasons back in the 1920s under a man called Herbert Chapman, who later went on to manage Arsenal to great things. See, I know my football history. Don't worry about that. That's why they've got them 3 stars on the top of their badges to signify the 3 league titles that they've got. And the good thing is that they've actually got 1 league title more than Spurs. What's not to like? So let's just go through some of the comments. Wilson wants to go back up north. Yeah, I mean, that's a rumour that's been floating around for a little while, Gaza. Family reasons and all the rest of it. Similar thing to what the story is I've heard with why Stuart Pearce left. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, if their personal situation is such that they feel they need to move elsewhere, I've got no problem with that. Ward-Prowse or Gallagher? I don't think we're going for both, Trini. I mean, especially with Ward-Prowse at 75 million. To be honest with you, this is just my opinion. If it was a choice between Ward-Prowse or Gallagher. For one, couple of reasons. One, I think he's not going to be 75 million quid. That's the first thing. Second thing, he's younger. So you're in theory, you're getting a player with more longevity, with more scope to improve. Whereas Ward-Prowse, was he 27? I think Gallagher's 22. I completely off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure that's right there or thereabouts. So I would definitely be looking at Gallagher if it was a choice between the two. But that's just my opinion. Others of you might disagree. And again, if you want to put something in the chat, please feel free to do so. That is why we are here. And that's the good thing. Abraham did look really good. I think we missed a trick there. And yeah, I was, again, you can go back, you can see I was someone that was advocating, Tammy Abraham, get him in. I mean, I think did he go there for 36 million or something like that? That's looking like a bargain now, if that's the case. But yeah, it's typical West Ham. Cornet, as Gonzo called him on his video this morning. So Jordan says, really excited for this transfer window. We've saved a lot of money in recent windows. Yeah, by not signing anyone, but that's another story. And I want to see us sign at least 2 top Premier League proven players. I think we might sign a few more. I think we need to, if I'm being honest. One or the other, not both. Yeah, no, as I say, I would definitely go with Gallagher. That's it's just my opinion. The defender from Rennes, Aguerd, as I say, my understanding is that the deal is virtually done, but until it's announced and you've got the player standing at London Stadium with a shirt, you know the sort of shot that you always get, the sort of standard thing, then I'm not going to believe it necessarily. I mean, we was told, don't forget, last season, this time last year, or just a little bit further along, we was all being told, oh, Milenkovic, it's a done deal, don't worry about that, he's coming in. Didn't happen. So you'll forgive me if I don't yet turn around and go, yeah, it's done. Like I say, my understanding is that it's virtually done, but we'll see. I definitely agree, says Jordan. Gallagher has so much energy, high work rate, and we need either Lingard or someone like him to get the team forward faster. Yeah, I think he would be a very good team. I think he would fit into a team like us, counter-attacking team. When we get the ball, bang, get forward with pace, with energy, with precision. I think he would fit the mold. I'm not entirely convinced that James Ward-Prowse has that same energy about him. That's just my observation. Okay, what we got here? Trini says, Abraham's got a record by being the highest scoring player in their debut season for Roma. Yeah, he's done really well there, mate. As I say, I seriously do think we've missed a really big opportunity last season to get him in. And I do wonder, and we'll never know, I do wonder if he'd have been competing with Antonio for that number 9 spot, how many more goals would West Ham have scored? If you think about it, Bowen banging goals in, Antonio banging goals in, Abraham banging goals in. I would say that with Abraham's goals, we're at least finishing 6th, because we was only 2 points away from finishing 6th. We had a better goal difference than Manchester United. So I think we minimum finish 6th. And I think that we get past Frankfurt and we get to a final against Rangers. And I think we beat Rangers. That's just my opinion. I know that Frankfurt fans watching and Rangers fans that watch would obviously say no way, and that's fine. But that's just my opinion. I think he definitely would have made a difference last season. But it is what it is. Okay, what other stories am I going to bring to your attention? Hang on a minute. Let me just get rid of that. Get rid of that. There's a few tabs that I've already covered with you. So here we go. Here's a good one. Right. Listen to this one. Okay. Everton and West Ham, again, same two teams as battling for Maxwell Cornet, but this is a Leeds player. Now, the story basically starts off and it says about, obviously, Leeds, as we know, narrowly avoided relegation. And obviously, there are two players that we have been quite readily linked with, being Rafinha and Calvin Phillips. It says, however, it looks like Rafinha is very close to joining Barcelona. Not really a shock, I guess. He's Brazilian, and they've had an awful lot of Brazilian players over the years. You look at Ronaldo, Romario, Ronaldinho, many players that they've had that have gone through the door, Neymar. So, yeah, I mean, it looks like, I mean, even there, you look like Fabrizio Romano is saying that they're in well advanced talks with Deco for Rafinha. So it's quite likely, I think he's probably going to end up going there. It also makes the point that Calvin Phillips is believed to be wanted by a host of top clubs, including, it says here, Manchester United. I heard the other day that Manchester City was sniffing around. Now, I'm not being funny. Manchester United, I can understand the pull. Obviously, though, he's a Leeds fan and a Leeds player, and I'm not too sure that there's going to be much joy for Calvin Phillips if he went to Manchester United and he went back to Ellen Road. I think he would get an awfully hard time, as you remember players that have made that move, like Eric Cantona, like Rio Ferdinand, Alan Smith. They've not exactly been welcomed back to Yorkshire with open arms, but I guess money talks and bullshit walks. But if Man City are in for him, I think that there's only one place he goes. But the story goes on and says that we're linked with Jack Harrison, their winger. It obviously goes on here and says about Calvin Phillips, Rafinha, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, there seems to be a link with Jack Harrison. Now, he would be a player, I think. It's one of those. Is it? What would you think? What do you think? I'll throw it over to you. So we're linked with Maxwell Cornet. We're linked with Jack Harrison. We don't need both of them. Which would be your preference? To be honest, I think I would probably go for Harrison, and it's a very marginal call. But I think as I say, the concern for me with Maxwell Cornet is I've heard little whispers, little rumblings that maybe he's not quite the team player. Maybe his attitude isn't quite right. He's a little bit more of an individualist. Whereas I think Jack Harrison is more a team player than Cornet. That's just my opinion. That's just how I see it. You guys might disagree. Would I be sad at Maxwell Cornet coming in? No. Like I said earlier, I'd be perfectly comfortable with that. But again, a bit like earlier, what was mentioned between, if it was a straight choice between James Ward-Prowse and Conor Gallagher, I would choose Gallagher. Others might choose James Ward-Prowse. That's fine. Again, if it was a straight shootout between, okay, we've got these two players that can play on the left, which is a position we know we need, left of midfield, left wing, whatever. Jack Harrison or Maxwell Cornet, I think on balance, I'm probably just going to come down on the side of Jack Harrison. But it's a close thing. As I say, if you've got any thoughts on that, jump them into the live chat. We'll get into it. Gaza says he hopes we sort out the Areola deal soon. Yeah, I mean, whether it would be on another season-long loan or whether it would be a permanent transfer, I'm not too worried. just get it done. Get the deal done and keep buggering about and all the rest of it. Joke is we're always going to sign a player called Nearly Done. Yeah, Nearly Done. Oh, we tried. What do you do? What happens if Diop goes? Well, I mean, look, if we sign Edward, which, like I say, I think is fairly likely, I think that it's not really a big deal. Like I say, I suppose the fly in the ointment, the unknown is Ogbonna. How is he going to be when he comes back? Is he going to come back? Is he going to be the same player? Probably not. He probably will have a little bit of his edge that's been blunted. But I think if Aguerd signs, then I can readily see that Diop is probably going to go. I mean, I don't know. I mean, could it even be that Diop is part of the deal? Could he go back to France? I don't know. Like I say, I haven't heard that mentioned in any of the stories, but I do wonder, is it possible that maybe Diop's going to be a make weight for this deal? Which of our players have been released so far? Well, I covered it a little bit earlier, Trini, but basically it's Mark Noble, it's Andrei Yarmolenko, it's Ryan Fredericks, and it's David Martin. They're the ones that have been confirmed. I don't see that Alex Krau's going to be retained, so I think he will. It's fairly safe to assume he will go. And there was basically a batch of under 23 players and whatever that have been shown the door. Probably the most well known of which was Nathan Holland. Andy, hope you are well, and Charlie, hope you are well too. Some great photographs you put on the WhatsApp group that we're in together of you and your little one up at London Stadium. Very nice to see. And he's got a similar hairstyle to you, I notice. I notice that you've done a little bit of, I'm like, he's trying to get him the same hairstyle. He's looking like the old man. Milesy says, Jack Harrison, good player, great ability, and a Moyes type player. Yes, like I say, Maxwell Cornet, yeah, fine. But if we can get Jack Harrison, if we've got a possibility of getting Jack Harrison through the door, fantastic. And again, for me, if it's a straight shootout between us and Everton for this player, we've got to leverage the fact that we've got European football for the second time in consecutive seasons. We've got European football. Now, surely we've got to go to that player. If he's sort of like, do I go Everton? Do I go West Ham? We've got to turn around to him and go, listen, we've got European football. We had European football next season. With you, we can get European football the following season. Yeah. Or you can go to a club that pisses money down the drain on crap and has done for about the last 5 seasons. Everton are a great football club. I'm not saying Everton are a crap football club. They're not. Everton are a club that are steeped in history. And the first football team that I remember seeing that was the team that stuck in my mind was the Howard Kendall team of the mid-80s. They won the FA Cup. They won 2 league titles. They won the Cup Winners' Cup, all the rest of it. Great players like Southall, Lineker, Gray, Ratcliffe, Sheedy, yada, yada, yada. Right, okay? I've got no problem with Everton Football Club, but let's say it as it is. They've underachieved for an awful long time, and they're in serious debt. We need to leverage everything we can, and we need to say to Jack Harrison, don't go there, because they're probably going to be struggling. At best, they're a mid-table team. At worst, they're relegation contenders, yeah? Don't go there. Come to a club that's a bit more stable in London, big stadium, 62,000 week on week, European football. You go far with this club. And if you've got ambitions of playing for England, you can achieve that here, because look, we've got Declan Rice, we've got Jared Bowen. They're in the latest England squad on the back of playing for us and playing well this season. You can do that. We need to leverage everything we can to try and get players like this through the door who might be looking at other clubs and going, oh, maybe they're the place I need to go. No, this is the place to be. If you've got ambitions, this is the place you need to be. Exactly, Charlie. Yeah, Jack Harrison for me. If it's a straight shootout between him and Cornet, I don't, like I say, it's a close thing. I'm not saying that it's Jack Harrison by a country mile, but I think that on balance, Jack Harrison would be the one. Trini says, if Phillips joins Man U, he walks into that team as first choice. At City, he would be rotated. He would, but Jack Grealish was rotated and he looked quite happy at the end of the season with a Premier League winners medal around his neck. If he'd have gone to Manchester United and they'd have finished 6th, I don't think he would. He probably would have played more if like I'm talking about Grealish. If say he'd have gone to Manchester United this season, I think he'd have played more. And the same here. I think Phillips may well play more games for Manchester United. I think that's true, but I think most players want to win medals, and at City, you're pretty much guaranteed to win medals, aren't you? You're going to be contenders for the League Cup. You're going to be contenders for the FA Cup. You're definitely contenders for the Premier League, and you're going to be getting deep in the European Cup. And at some point, they're going to crack it. It's a matter of time, I think. So I know that, and he's going to get paid probably the similar fee, a similar wage at the City that he would at United. And you say about rotated, but there's a lot of players that are sort of making a lot of noise about the fact that they're overplayed, that they're playing too many games. Well, if he's getting rotated, he can't moan about that, can he? Do you know what I mean? So that's just my take on it. But it's a fair point you make, Trini. Let's go through some of these comments. Everybody's just saying hello to each other. Gaza says 90-minute show Rice in a Man United shirt. Yeah, listen, I could put Declan Rice in a Manchester United shirt on software that I've got here. Doesn't mean to say he's going to sign for him. So, they can do what they want. It's just a load. It's just to get Man United fans to buy 90 minutes, isn't it? We know what that's all about. Someone did say that Cornet is injury prone as well. He has had a couple. He did have an injury or two this season, didn't he? So, little model hairstyle like his old man on the catwalk, Charlie. Don't worry about it. I don't rate Harrison, says Hammerhead. We need to look at players better than him. Okay, that's fair statement. If you think we need to be looking at players better than Jack Harrison, I'll turn the question back on you if you don't mind. Who would you suggest? Who would you suggest that is better than either Matt Harrison or Cornet that we could realistically get? That's the important thing. You could turn around and say players that realistically we couldn't get, but it needs to be someone realistic. So I'll turn the question back on you if you don't mind, Hammerhead. Who are the players that if you was where David Moyes is, and if you're not going to get Jack Harrison, if you're not going to get Maxwell Cornet to cover left midfield, left wing, who are you bringing in? Hopefully Alese will come through as well. I've got hopes that he will. I've got no expectation that he will. And that's not a slight on Alese, who looks a prospect, but I'm not convinced that Moyes is convinced, because obviously we had players out left, right, and centre, and you're thinking Alesse's surely got to come in now, and he puts in Cresswell at centre back. You had a farmer's accent, did I? Did I? Well, I did go into my family tree when I was off on the lockdown, and I found that my forefathers came from. If you follow it one way, you end up in Cornwall. If you follow it another way, you end up in Norfolk. So maybe it's some of my old genes that are coming out. I don't know. I didn't hear the farmer's accent. I'll have to go back and have a look. But maybe I did, my lover. We're not lovers. Just to clarify, that's just a saying in case anyone's getting worried. So yeah, come to a massive club, says Gaza. He agrees with me, definitely. Ward-Prowse. So you'd go for Ward-Prowse over Cornet or Jack Harrison. Here's the thing. I don't really think he's not what I would call a proper left winger, though, is he? And I'm not paying. I don't think he's worth 75 million. I really don't. And again, Loftus-Cheek, he's not a left midfielder. He's central mid, defensive mid. Listen, he's a player that I rate, and so's Ward-Prowse. Don't misunderstand me, but I'm not entirely sure they're a good fit for West Ham. And with Loftus-Cheek, the one thing that does worry me is his injury record. So West Ham are massive everywhere we go. Of course we are, Peach. Of course we are. Keane Lewis Potter. That one I'll agree with you on. That one I will agree with you on. I would go Keane Lewis Potter. And he's also gone Rashford. Rashford, interesting. Yeah, he's fallen quite rapidly, quite quickly at Old Trafford. It's a question of whether this manager thinks that he's the man for him. So, but Rashford, yeah, I got no problem with that. I'd be fine with Marcus Rashford coming through the door. Okay, next one I'm going to bring to your attention. Let me just move this off. So this is a story from This Is Football, and it's a story that comes from ex-WHU employee, and he says that we want 6 or 7 transfers in the summer. If you just sort of have a look here, it just says that he's claimed that West Ham will make 6 or 7 signings. Now, I think that when ex-WHU employee speaks, then we need to listen, because this is a guy that he knows his stuff. He's very, very credible. And he was speaking on his West Ham Way Patreon page, which I'm pretty sure, if you're still there, Milesy, you're on. So I'm guessing this is something that you're fully aware of. He's quoted as saying that he would expect us to make 6 or 7 signings this window. And he's obviously mentioned more than that on targets. As explained many times before, the club have a large list of targets and then narrow it down after discussions for what they believe to be the deal. Now, for me, I think 6 or 7 is probably a minimum. But that's good news for me. I think that shows a little bit of intent. If you've got someone that's as well connected to the club, that's willing to put his head on the chopping block and say to people on his Patreon podcast, so these are people that are paying him for little tidbits of information well before they get out there in the public domain. And he's coming out to these people and saying, yeah, this is where we're at, 6 or 7 players. And it's not we're intending to. The word he uses is will. West Ham will sign 6 or 7 players. That's what it says here. So I think to myself, well, if he's coming out and say that, or let me rephrase that, his expectation, he says, I would expect us to make 6 or 7. So his expectation is that we will make 6 or 7 signings. And I think that if he's coming out, like I say, and saying that to his Patreons, that are the people that pay for his content, then I think that this is something that we need to listen to. 6 or 7 signings, yeah, but we'll see. I mean, we were probably expecting some business in the January transfer window, and it didn't happen. So what do you do? Let's just go back to the comments. Joan says Rashford is getting shocking vile abuse from Man United fans. Yeah, I don't get that. I mean, I sort of look at it and I go, he's one of their own. He's an academy product. He's a Manchester United fan. He's been there since he was a kid. He came through. He obviously has become an England international, done a lot of great things trying to get kids at schools fed. And he's obviously a really nice guy. He's got some good moral. He's got a good moral compass about him. And if he's getting abuse from his own fans, I find that really classless. And I'm not saying all Man United fans, because obviously it's not all Man United fans. You'll probably find it's a lot of Man United fans that are probably in their mum's back bedroom with their pants round their ankles. You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't say it to him in the street. They wouldn't have the guts. So anyway, let's just move on with comments. Hi, Marcus. Hope you are well. And he says, hi, guys. What about Newcastle winger St. Maximan? Yeah, I mean, would I take him? Yeah, I would. Do I think he's on the market? I'm not entirely sure he is. I think that Eddie Howe is going to be doing a lot of work in the summer with Newcastle United. I appreciate that St. Maximan is not an Eddie Howe signing, but I think that he will probably give Saint-Maximin an opportunity this season to show his worth to him as a player. So I'm not entirely sure that Saint-Maximin will be on the market. So Andrew says, if Forest don't get promoted, there's a few gems there. Well, what have we got? There's Joe Worrell, who we were linked with last season. Brennan Johnson. Who was the other one? There's another player that's there that I've heard people saying good things about. I mean, you'll have to forgive me. I've not seen that much of Forest this season. I've seen little bits and pieces like in the FA Cup and other little bits, but I can't say that I've watched them that closely. But Brennan Johnson and Joe Worrell are the two that I know about. And there's, like I say, I'm sure there's another player. And if you want to sort of jump it in the chat, he isn't always in the know. Well, I would suggest that he's got a very credible track record. Not everything he says comes to pass. I completely understand that, Hammerhead. But I think that if he says something, you have to take it as being as reliable a source of information as it's possible to get. I think there's a lot less credible sources than X. I think X gets an awful lot of them right. So yes, he doesn't get them all right, but nobody's right 100% of the time. So let's just go through the chat. Andy says 6 and 7. Does that include free signings? Well, he doesn't state whether it does or doesn't. As I say, it says, and this was on the website. This is Football, as I say, earlier on today. It was published, and as I say, he's quoted as saying that his expectation is that we will make 6 to 7 signings in the window. He says he's obviously mentioned more targets than that, but it gets obviously whittled down, and his expectation is we will make 6 or 7 signings. Whether they are 6 or 7 signings that we pay money for, and then the rest we pay free signings, free transfers, I don't know, but that's what the story, that's what the article says on the website. Okay, right. Let's bring you the next one. Oh, I'll tell you what. Before I do, just quickly, how they treated Lingard, I think that was appalling, to be honest. Not even to give him the opportunity. That was, I think I mentioned it on a previous stream. There I was watching the Man United game at Old Trafford, their last league game. I think they played at Brentford, wasn't it? Was it 3-0, if I remember rightly? And they're bringing off Nemanja Matic, and he's getting a hero's reception. And they brought off Juan Mata, and he's getting a hero's reception. Jesse Lingard, nothing. I do think is treated. Whether you think that Jesse Lingard will come back to West Ham, whether you're a fan of Jesse Lingard or not, I just think that's appalling for a guy that's been there all that time and has done so much for them. Gaza, can you see Benny and Vlasic leaving? If I'm being brutally honest, yes, I can. Do I want them to go? Probably not. I certainly don't think Vlasic we can judge on the very limited time he's been utilised last season. Benny, well, look at the goals he got. Look at the assists he got. I can understand people turning around and saying, but he's not a team player and defensively he's a bit suspect and yada, yada, yada. I get that. But fundamentally, he's an offensive player. And yes, I know that you could turn around and pick holes even in his offensive play and go, well, there are many times when he should shoot and he crosses and he should cross and he shoots. Do you know what I mean? You can pick holes in anything. But I think that with his goals and assist stats, they're very respectable last season. I do think he is possibly a little bit of an easy target. And it may well be that he hasn't helped himself for that fallout he had with Moyes when he came off against Newcastle. So I wouldn't be shocked if he left. I'd be disappointed. I would be disappointed. But listen, if we sold Benny and or Vlasic and Moyes was given those funds to reinvest and we got a player in that did a better job than the player or players that we've moved on, then that's fine. I feel Ten Hag will give Rashford a fresh chance. That's the thing. I mean, it may well be that, a new broom sweeps clean, as they say. It may well be that he'll get players that under the previous regime were deemed surplus to requirements. It may be that he can put an arm around Rashford's shoulder, or it may well be the complete reverse. It may well be that he looks at Rashford and says, no, you're not for me, and that maybe Rashford does have to move on to pastures new. James Garner, yes, decent shout. I like him. He's a good player. Gaza, Gacy, when you're talking about pants, you're talking about Man United. Steady. Dan, hope you are well, my friend. Yeah, I mean, I sent you a voice note earlier in the week, obviously commiserating with you about the matters that unfolded on the last day of the season. And listen, mate, I wish you the best of luck. I hope that this coming season is better for you in terms of results than last season was. But you guys have got an awful lot of problems, from what I understand, with this loan. Was it 60 million quid? I mean, as I left you on the voice note, it's like, that's not a good position to be in. And we've been in that position when we've been relegated, and you're looking and going, shit, where's the money gone? Mate, my heart goes out to you guys in a footballing sense. And I wish you well, mate. And yeah, we'll have a chat a little bit later down the track. Out of the players released, who would I have kept on personally? None of them, mate. Yarmolenko was on an awful lot of wages and was injury prone. Ryan Fredericks, again, injury prone player, not on the wages that Yarmo was on, but we don't fundamentally need a right back. We got Kufal, we got Johnson, we got Ashby. So we got 3 players that can play that position. We didn't need a 4th. And who was the other one that was released? David Martin. So he didn't really play. So out of the players released, I wouldn't have kept any of them. So I think that was, a lot of it was fait accompli, to be completely honest with you. Jones says Benrahma scored some good goals and assisted a few times. We would miss him. Yeah, I do think, I'm not for 1 minute saying he's the finished article. I'm not for 1 minute saying that the people that have a slightly more negative view of Benny than I do maybe don't have a point. But I do think that there are other players that possibly could get a bit more stick than they do, and they haven't produced the stats that Benny's produced this season. I do wonder whether I personally, I was there at the game against Spurs. We lost it 3-1, but Benny was excellent that day, really good. But he was played on the right. And to the best of my knowledge, I think that's the first time and possibly the only time that he's played on the right. And I do sit there and I think, well, if he had a good game there, he scored a goal, he gave Tottenham's left side of defence all sorts of trouble, why not play him there? Now, I know that Bowen has that position. Well, move Bowen to the left then, or move Bowen up top and put Antonio on the left. I mean, he plays there most of the time anyway. Even when he's playing as a striker, he peels over to the left. So I'll tell you what, Antonio left, Benny right, and put Jared up top. It's an idea. Whether we'll see it, I don't know. Hammer says Vlasic will turn out the better player of the two of him and Benny. That remains to be seen. That does remain to be seen. At the minute, I would say that Benny's got the edge. Vlasic, I do think, needs the pre-season and a decent run in the team in his favoured position, which is basically in Lanzini's position. Now, if Lanzini does move on, and happy Hammerette, I'm sorry, but I'm saying if he moves on, if he goes to River Plate in Argentina, maybe that's the opportunity that Vlasic needs, but he needs to grab that opportunity. It's no good if he comes in and stinks the place out. He needs to come in, he needs to grasp the nettle, he needs to work hard, and he needs to show that he is the player that David Moyes forked out the money on. So there you go. Not that James Garner, it's a different one. So, but yeah. Keep Benny if they signed Ivan Toney. Fair point. Turf Moorhouse. Yep. Make sure, guys, if you could. Sorry, I probably should have said that earlier. Turf Moorhouse. As I say, Dan's a really lovely guy. Burnley fan. He's obviously hurting in a football sense, obviously, with their relegation. If you could do us a favour, if you could jump onto YouTube, put in Turf Moorhouse TV and give him a subscribe. I think he's... correct me if I'm wrong, Dan. From memory, I think you're nudging towards the 500 subscribers mark. So just give him a subscribe, and yeah, he's a lovely fella. He's helped this channel out behind the scenes. He's helped us out quite a bit. The intro and the outro that we use, that was him. That wasn't me. That was him. Listen to the voice. No, forgot to respond. My phone died. Listen, it's fine, mate. You don't need to apologise. It's all good. No, she's not. Behave. She's not a Burnley fan. She might be from Burnley. I don't know where Joan's from. So, but she's definitely a West Ham fan. And if she says she's not, then we're adopting her. Joan says, Hammerhead. That's interesting that you rate Vlasic. I'd love to see him do well. Can't see it though. Time will tell. I mean, look, I'm always willing to give people an opportunity, but they need to grab that opportunity. And if they don't, that's on them. Gatesy, we need at least 2 strikers. What do you think? I think 2 would be great. If we can get 1, that's a start. Because I think we've needed at least a striker for the last 18 months. So 2 would be great. 2 would be really good. I think we need 1 first-line striker, 1 striker that's going to come in and either relegate Antonio to the substitutes bench or move him onto the left. And then obviously you drop probably Fornals out, or unless, like I say, unless Lanzini does go and maybe Fornals comes in as the 10 or Vlasic comes in as the 10, whatever. But I think we need to get in a striker that does that and another striker that's maybe either a little bit further in their career and is coming to the tail end. And I'm not saying someone coming in on easy street just to pick up a paycheck, someone that's going to come in and work hard and all the rest of it, but someone that can be a little bit of a game-changing substitute, or someone at the other end of the career, someone on the upward trajectory. To be honest, I think I would rather the player on the upward trajectory rather than the player coming slightly down. But you get the point I mean. So, you know, a bench player. Lanzini's still young, only 28, got a year or 2 left in him yet. I agree, but I've heard stories about he wants to go back home. I don't know whether that's imminent or whether that's maybe a little bit further down the line. We shall wait and see. Dan, no problem at all, mate. As I say, it's you know, I obviously appreciate the help that you've given the channel, and as I say, if there's anything that we can do to help, and as I say, any of you guys that haven't subscribed to Turf Moorhouse TV, please do. He's such a lovely guy, and as I say, if we can try and do what we can to get him a little bit closer to his next waypoint on YouTube, that would be an absolutely brilliant thing. Luke, you mischievous man, have we signed Neymar yet? I think we're probably trying to get him on a loan to buy deal, and Paris Saint-Germain ain't budging. I can't think why. Hammer says, I don't think Vlasic has had much time or opportunity, really. Not had as much time as Benny did in his first season, has arguably done better. Yeah, I get that Benny probably, yes, he did have more time on the pitch than Vlasic. What I would say to that, though, is that because Vlasic is not showing enough to David Moyes in training, it must be something like that. I mean, it's the same with Král. Král come in 6 games and that's it. And you're sitting there thinking, well, Moyes sees these players every day in training. We don't. We only see what they do on a Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. So we can only judge them on what they do on the pitch. Whereas David Moyes sees them in training every single day. And maybe they're just not showing enough in training. I mean, it's, like I say, like the under-23s, everybody's sort of saying about giving them a chance. And there is a part of me that gets it. But if he's looking at these players and just saying, well, fundamentally, you're just not up to the grade. He's a Premier League manager of what, 22 or thereabouts. He's certainly 22 years experience. So he's he's the manager. He makes the decision. I'm a true hammer, 55 years of dedication. Love Burnley as I have friends there. There you go. She's not from Burnley. She's not a Burnley fan. Sorry, Dan, she's not, but probably won't happen. But would you loan us Ben Rama for a season? Would he go to a... And I'm not trying to be... I'm not trying to be sarcastic or, come across superior that, oh, we're a Premier League and you're Championship. I'm not saying that, but would Saeed Benrahma go back to the Championship? I'm not entirely sure. I think because he's had a taste of Premier League football for the last 2 seasons, and I think he's done all right. Like I say, I can understand people giving him a little bit of a hard time in certain areas, but I do think some of it is over the top. But would he go to a Championship club? I'm not convinced he would. I think there are Premier League clubs that if we did put him up for sale, I think there are Premier League clubs that would be interested before it got to Burnley, in all fairness. But would I be interested in doing a deal for Benrahma out, Cornet in? Maybe. I'll tell you what. Would you be interested in Arthur Masuaku? I'm really surprised he's not part of the released list. Betty Swallocks, who are we going to bring in at left back? I think Cresswell has seen better days. We covered it a little bit earlier, Betty. I've mentioned Calvin Bassey. He's a name that's been mentioned. Obviously, he can play left back and left centre back. So he could be someone that's coming in. We'll wait and see. Right, I'm going to bring the next story up now. Hold up a moment. Here we go. Right. This is from the website Inside Football. And the story says, Leicester City and West Ham probe deal for 20-year-old midfielder. Now, this was one that pricked up my ears because I was like, oh, really? This is a new one on me. And I don't know, some of you may be aware of this, some of you may not. But this says, Leicester City and West Ham have shown an interest in signing Empoli midfielder Kristjan Asllani this summer. It has been claimed in Italy. Now, he's a 20-year-old midfielder who's a product of the Empoli Academy. And he's been putting in, by all accounts, some good performances in Serie A, which is obviously a very, very competitive league. Now, if you scroll down here, it says that also in the frame, also looking at him, is Inter Milan, but Leicester and West Ham are looking at him. Now, he's Albanian, and he is rated, as far as Empoli are concerned anyway, they're looking to get rid of him or get him out the door and get in 11 to 12 million euros, which, as the headline says, they say that it translates to basically... Oh, no, they don't sort of... My mistake. I've got no idea what that is in pounds sterling, 11 to 12 million euros. There might be someone out there that can fill in that gap in my knowledge. I'm not an investment banker. I don't know what exchange rates are. I haven't got a clue. But I did have a little cheeky look on Transfer Market because I've got to be honest with you, not a player I know an awful lot about. So let's have a little wee look here. So here he is, Kristjan Asllani, Empoli, and he, as I say, he's Albanian. He's a defensive mid, predominantly. He can also play as a central mid or as an attacking mid, but defensive mid is more his thing. So is it going to be that maybe if Souček moves on, that this is the next cab off the rank? Or is it possibly, and this is me sort of thinking a little bit further along, is this possibly a longer term replacement for Declan Rice? Are we going to get him in this season, bed him in, and then possibly this time next year, does Declan Rice move on and this is the guy that's the long term replacement? I don't know. I'm just putting a little spin on it. It could be complete nonsense, but he's played 23 appearances in Serie A this season. He's 1 goal, 1 assist. Yeah, not terribly prolific, but as I say, he's a defensive mid. What do you expect? And just looking here, he's had quite a bit of involvement one way and another. As I say, he's a young player, 20 years of age. So he's been sort of like in the squad, out of the squad, on the bench. But then sort of like as you wind on towards the end of the season, he managed to establish himself. And as you can see there, he played the bulk of the last, 12, 14 matches for Empoli. So yeah, I mean, again, this is a player that maybe David Moyes has had a really good look at, and might not be one that's a player that's expected to come in and maybe necessarily hit the ground running. But I think this is possibly a player that's going to beef up the bench, certainly initially, and maybe he's looking a little bit longer term. Is it, or is it going to be someone that maybe could come in? Because as we've already mentioned, Thomas Souček, there's question marks about him, but I'm not quite sure that I see him as a direct replacement for Thomas Souček, for the simple reason that Thomas Souček is obviously a little bit more of a goal threat, whereas this guy, as you can see from those stats, he's not really that sort of player. This is a guy that, from his stats, seems to be more a traditional CDM. Could it be, though, that maybe he comes in and that allows Declan Rice the scope, if you will, to move on and become the box to box player that he wants to be, that we all sort of like saw before our eyes this season? There was a definite shift in the dynamic of the partnership between Rice and Souček, whereas previously Rice was the shield and Souček was the player that was bombing on, making the late runs. Last season, it was a little bit more of a shift in emphasis, and Declan Rice was making more surging runs, and Souček was the shield, which seems to be the genesis of probably essentially the reason why Moyes and Souček, if you believe it, have fallen out. But I don't know. I mean, this is a name that I saw. As I say, this is on. I got this via the News Now website. I mean, you can go put it into Google, and what you do is you put News Now into the search bar, and then you click search and just put West Ham in, and it will come up with a load of stories. As I say, I use News Now. I use OneFootball as a resource, and yeah, this is basically where I get the stories from. Did you know? Now, a name that has often been cropped up with West Ham in the last year is Adam Hlozek. Did you know he's moved on? I only found this out just a little bit earlier. I couldn't believe it. Look at this. So Daniel Kaczynski shows his true colours by selling best player and West Ham target Adam Hlozek, and this is on Hammers News. You scroll down here, and I was like, what? So Adam Hlozek is now off the menu. He's gone to Bayer Leverkusen. What do you make of that? Yeah, listen. He was a player that was linked with us. He obviously did quite a lot of good things in the Czech First Division. Scored a lot of goals. I think a lot of people, and probably myself included, if I'm being honest, looked at it and went, oh, hang on, this fella that's just invested in West Ham is the current president of Sparta Prague, and Sparta Prague have Adam Hlozek on their books. Oh, hello. Does that mean that possibly that makes the possibility of a deal becomes that much easier? Well, it appears not, because he's gone to Bayer Leverkusen. So Adam Hlozek is now off the menu. So that particular bit of speculation, that can now come to a halt. Adam Hlozek ain't coming to us. Well, not anytime soon anyway. Maybe he'll come to us down the track, but right now he ain't coming to us. Last little bit of business, and then I'll get back to the comment section before I do a runner. I'll add this to the stream. And this is another one that's not one that I've seen up until just shortly before I decided to do this. And this is from Claret and Hugh. Now, again, I appreciate that there are going to be some people that don't particularly think that Claret and Hugh is a credible source of information. Again, it was mentioned about X doesn't get everything right, but nobody does. But again, let's have a little look at this before we make a decision. And it says that we've been linked with another defender. And this is again from Serie A, and this is from Serie A club Bologna. And this is a gentleman by the name of Arthur Theate. Theate. I don't know how it's pronounced. He's Belgian, apparently. Now, it does say, and this is the bit that, and it might seem a little bit of I'm being a little bit picky. He's a central defender, fine. Yet we know we need a central defender. It says we know that the Hammers are interested in signing Nayef Agurd from Rennes, and talks are progressing. But it appears that Theate, however it's pronounced, I don't know, could be an option. It says Bologna are open to letting the centre-back leave the club, and they're said to be interested from the Hammers, who are lining up a number of targets ahead of the summer. Theate would only cost around £8 million, so he may well be seen as a backup option in case of a deal for Aguerd fails to go through. It seems like the deal could well be done if we're actually interested, because the Italian club are not set to stand in his way. Now, I got to be honest with you, I initially looked at that and I went, oh, okay. So, and it kind of made sense, because I thought to myself, well, I know that David Moyes likes to try and have plan A. And when I say plan A, because I know a lot of people say, well, he doesn't have a plan B when it comes to tactics. He's plan A and that's it, which is a fair observation to make. But it said in that particular piece about, Bologna are willing to let him go and all the rest of it. Now, this is the bit where I kind of look and go, I'm not too sure that there's an awful lot of validity in this story. And it's really simple, because he's not actually Bologna's player. He's actually a player who is actually owned by KV Ostend in Belgium. He's at Bologna on loan. So I look at that story on Claret and Hugh, and like I say, listen, whether you think Claret and Hugh is credible, whether you think it's not credible, that's up to you. That was a story that I saw and I thought it was interesting. But as I say, they did make a very critical error in that piece and said, we're going to do a deal. The Bologna are willing to let him go, blah, blah, blah. He's not Bologna's player. He's an Ostend player. But let's just have a little look at some of his stats. I mean, look, he may well be an option. I don't know. So here he is. He's a centre-back. And again, he can play at left-back. So he has that little bit of versatility about him, a bit like Calvin Bassey, who we discussed earlier. Again, looking at him, he's played 31 times, in Serie A, 2 goals, 1 assist. And looking here, he's basically been in the squad. He's been quite an ever-present. He had an injury. He had a yellow card. But if you look at it there, he's basically played every game. 34 times in the squad, 28 times in the starting 11, introduced as a sub 3 times, an unused sub 3 times, suspended once, injured once. He's got 2 caps for the Belgian national team. Now, that's no mean feat, if we're being honest. Belgium have got a pretty good team at the minute. So if you getting caps for the Belgian national team, you must be pretty decent. As I say, he's 22 years of age. But as I say, the thing that makes me think that possibly that story in Claret and Hugh might not be as watertight as you think is that they do make the point, Bologna are willing to let him go and blah, blah, blah. He's not Bologna's player. He's on loan at Bologna from Ostend. So this might be a player that maybe we should be looking at, but I'm not entirely sure that we are, simply because, as I say, it might seem really picky on my part, but it's quite important that the article needs to get things like the club that we need to negotiate with, and they haven't. So there you go. Let's just have a little bit of a look back at the comments section before I have it on me toes, because that was the last little article I'm going to bring you. If there's anything you want to jump into the live chat, if you want me to sort of answer any questions, please do. I've got a little bit more time, in fairness. Rice rates Vlasic. If we keep Vlasic, I hope he does well. I hope every player that's in a claret and blue shirt does well. Hello, Darren. Yeah, listen, Ebbsfleet and Dartford, they both fell short. Dartford's a weird one because they've just sacked their manager, and they turned around and said, there was a club statement that came out, Darren. Have a look online. And I just think it's basically them saying that they don't want to spend the money that the previous manager wanted to spend. But there you go. You got to speculate to accumulate, which is exactly what we're talking about here with the transfer business. Hammerhead says, I think because Vlasic is actually a young player and that we have 2 other players in his position. Could well be. What else we got? Exactly, Rice can't be wrong. Well, like I say, people can be wrong. Rice might be wrong. Who knows? Vlasic is one we need to keep hold of. I can see him aging very well and getting better and better. But as a save hammerhead, he's got a responsibility for the good of his career. I mean, he's had an opportunity in the Premier League before with Everton. Yeah, I know he was young. He was, 18, 19, whatever. But he didn't grab the opportunity then. He's got a second opportunity. He needs to grab it. He needs to grab it by hook or by crook. He needs to grab it. Massa needs to get lost. Yeah, as quickly as possible. Memes, hope you're well. Any news on Aguerd? Well, there's been no confirmation. As I say, my information, the word on the street, if you will, is that it's very, very close. And I think there's T's that have got to be crossed, I's that have got to be dotted. But the word is that it's close. But I haven't seen any white smoke, if you know what I mean. So we'll wait and see. We do. Yeah, definitely. About Vlasic and Krau. Yeah, as I say, that Krau's name wasn't mentioned in the players that have been released, but I don't think he's got any chance of staying. Gaza says he doesn't want the Ox. For those of you that didn't see it this morning, Gonzo's video, he mentioned Lingard. As I did earlier, I made a comparison. You know, if it was Jack Harrison versus Maxwell Cornet, who would I go for? Well, I would go for Jack Harrison. If it was James Ward-Prowse versus Conor Gallagher, which player would I go for? I'd go for Conor Gallagher. If it was Jesse Lingard versus Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Lingard. Similar players, similar ages, but one of them is injury prone. So that's Oxlade-Chamberlain. So Hammerhead says Moyes won't play him if he's 20. You say that, he did once upon a time when he was at Everton, and it was Wayne Rooney. But listen, Wayne Rooney was a generational talent, and unless we've got a player that's a generational talent, which he clearly hasn't, because otherwise he'd have played him. Yeah, what can you say? Jeremy, hope you're well. I want Origi. Yeah, do you know what? I wouldn't mind Origi, but I think I saw something the other day. I think he's been linked with AC Milan. I'm sure that was the player. He's been linked with a team, and it wasn't us. And I'm pretty sure it was abroad. AC Milan would make sense because they've got Olivier Giroud and Zlatan Ibrahimovic up top. Now, one's 40, one's 34. They've obviously won Scudetto with those two up top. And I'm hearing that Zlatan, they reckon, played the last however long of the season without an ACL. Jesus Christ, he's a machine, isn't he? But Origi, I would be, again, this is a player that I've sort of said, I'd love to have him in at West Ham. I don't think it's going to happen, Jeremy, but we'll see. But he says, big fan of Bassey, local lad, but he's off to the Villa. Well, as I say, he's got obviously a connection with Steven Gerrard. But for me, as I said earlier, I would be leveraging the fact that we have got European football to every player that we can that's coming from a club that doesn't have European football and possibly could be going to a club that's not got European football. We need to be saying, hello, we've got European football. They haven't. Come to us. But we'll see. One we should never have got rid of. Edmilson Fernandez. I liked him, but I'm not entirely sure where he is now. But he has gone to Milan. Has he? It's a done deal. As I say, I saw a whisper about him going to Milan, but looks like he's now done. What Luke says, Madupo Romero. Never heard of him, mate. I'll be completely brutally honest. I'm not going to try and make out that I know this name or whatever. That name doesn't ring any bells with me. So you're going to have to fill that one in. It was a shame that he left, but as I say, I heard it was for personal reasons, and you've got to give him your blessing when it's something like that. I think he's getting married, and Families up north in, I'm guessing they're probably up in the Nottinghamshire area, but we'll wait and see. Stuart says, heard on the grapevine, Lingard's a done thing and Rice will stay the season and see who Moyes brings in. Lingard, like I say, if he comes in, I would be happy. I think he would definitely, if he'd have been in the team last season, he would have improved us. I don't have any doubts about that. Will he come in and be as effective as he was in that loan spell? Probably not. But if he can be 2/3 of as effective, you've still got a player that's a big bonus to the squad that we had last season and will have next season. And if it keeps, by virtue of signing Lingard, if that convinces Declan Rice, if he's wavering at all, if he's got any doubts in his mind, if the signing of Lingard convinces Declan to stay for next season, then I think it's a no-brainer. Somebody mentioned Pearce maybe going to Fulham. Really? What? Not as a manager, obviously. As a coach? Interesting. Hammer says he wants Hlozek. As I say, he's gone to Bayer Leverkusen by all accounts. Is what it is. I read this morning. You talking about Hlozek. Yeah, as I say, it was a piece that I only stumbled across just as I was putting this together, and I thought, oh blimey, he's gone. Oh well. Thought Pearce was going to Forest. Again, I don't know. Would he go to Forest as a coach? I don't know. I mean, he's been manager before, isn't he? He's managed Forest before, and he's managed Man City before, and I think he was manager of the under-21s. I don't know. Has he got a hankering for going back into the big seat? I don't know. Now he's got to bang the goals in, and we'll wish we signed him. Yeah, probably. Probably what will happen is we'll sign him from Bayer Leverkusen and probably play 2-3 times the amount of money that we would have done if we had just got the deal done. If sign him and loan him to Leverkusen. Maybe that's the way to have done it, but no, he's gone. What do you do? Everton looking at the Forest striker Johnson. Yeah, good player. I mean, like I say, he's quick, he's direct, but I think we're probably going to go for Keane Lewis Potter. Like I say, that name keeps popping up, and I'd be perfectly happy with him. He's a good player, basically a mirror image of Jared Bowen. What else have we got here? I'm just going to go through the comments, get as much of these up. Arsenal are going to sign Hickey. I heard a whisper that we were sniffing around, but as usual, nothing happened. Another centre-back, it seems unlikely. Another Diop. Well, wait and see. Lucas, you've made it safe there, my friend. It was lovely to have you over on these shores. You're back the other side of the pond. Hope you are well. And next time you're over, mate, I'll take you for another bit of pie mash and liquor. He came all the way from Seattle. From Washington. I don't know where I got Seattle from. I do apologize, Lucas, if I've just insulted you. He'd come from Washington, and I took him to G. Kelly's on the Roman Road in Bow. He had pie mash and liquor, and he said it wasn't too bad. So there you go. Thanks again, everybody. Have to go. Hope you're well, Peter. Thanks for coming along, mate, and giving your time. Yep, I'm good, Lucas. Bisonhead. Hiya, Rob. Hope you're doing well, mate. I think Blashic has been unlucky this season. I wouldn't get rid of him permanently. Perhaps a loan season somewhere. I don't know, Ad. Let me think. Loan him out. Where would you loan him? Would you loan him Premier League club, Championship club, club abroad? I don't know. I want to see him get a pre-season. I think that's really important for a player to get a pre-season under their belt. Get him in for pre-season. Get him, but as I say, I would play him in his preferred position because then he's got no excuse. He can't sit there and say, which I think is a valid point he could make. Oh, I'm not a left-sided player. I'm a number 10. You keep playing me on the left. That's why you're not seeing the best of me. And he would have a point. But I think you get him in for pre-season, you sit him down, you say, right, I am going to play you in my number 10, in your number 10 position. But I am giving you an opportunity and I'm going to give you a reasonable amount of time. You need to grab this opportunity. You need to take it by the scruff of the neck and you need to impress me. And if you can't, then it's not looking good for you, mate. But hope you're well, my friend. Bison Head, yeah. It's Adam. We met in Frankfurt. We went to the what was the bar called, Dad? It was the Fox and Hounds, wasn't it? And for people that didn't go to Frankfurt, it was interesting, an interesting city. It crushed me not to see Fabianski's name on the list. Oh, epic, ruined your day. Oh, come on, mate. It's a lovely day. It's Friday. The sun's out. Tell me that didn't ruin your day, mate. Come on. Anyway, I hope you will, my friend. Lingard or Ox is insanity. Lingard is so clear. I'm glad we're in agreement, Lucas. I'm glad we're in agreement. Hammerhead, another we could have, instead of Harrison, is Harvey Barnes. That boy plays mustard and plays like a West Ham player. Now, he would be a very good player that I would like to get him through the door. But I'm not sure I can see him being let go. I'm not quite sure I can see him being relinquished his services at his current club. So he's a player I would like, but yeah, I just don't see it somehow. Medical after the Champions League final. Okay, fair enough. As I say, I did hear that Milan were in the mix. Hammer says he plays for Mainz, but he's been on loan last two suits. Oh, okay, fair enough. Fraser Forster's off to Spurs. Yeah, I heard that the other day. So, good luck to him. Not. Lingard's in LA. Oh, nice. All right for some. Aguerd and Bassey, 40 million defence sorted. Agree. Was it £25 million for Bassey? So if you're going to pay £15 million, Aguerd, that's the left side of your defence sorted because you've got a left back, you've got a left-sided centre back, and obviously with Bassey, he can play both of those positions. Aguerd, not too sure. I don't think he's played at fullback, so I think he's just centre back, left-sided, done. But yeah, I think they would be two top signings. Pierce could go to QPR. Yeah, could do. They don't have a manager at the moment. They don't indeed. And as I say, it's dependent on does he want to get a coaching gig or does he want to sit in the big chair? Does he want to have big boy pants on? If Forest don't come up, would you take Worrell? What I've seen of him at the level he's playing, he looks decent. The only concern I have is what would he do in the Premier League when he's taking that step up in quality. The gap between the Championship and the Premier League, it's a big gap, and it does seem to be getting bigger with season on season. So I don't know. It's a risky signing, but any signing from the Championship is. I mean, it's like if we get Keane Lewis Potter in, that's a risky signing. So, but I didn't get him jelly deals. That wasn't me. I thought, to be honest, I've tried jelly deals once in my life, and I can't lie, it wasn't really the best thing that I've ever experienced. Having said that, it wasn't at a pie and mash shop. It was, what was it, Macro. We was going around Macro, my wife and I, in Charlton, and there was a tub of them that they were kicking out. It probably wasn't the best idea on my part. They weren't great. Stew deals I've had. Stew deals were all right. It's just like fish, really. Loan Vlasic to Fulham. Yeah, could do. But as I say, I would like to see him get pre-season and get an opportunity in some pre-season friendlies in his position and say to him, grab this opportunity because you don't know. if you don't grab it, then that could be you done as far as a Premier League player is concerned. You know, you've had 2 opportunities at Everton, at West Ham. You're probably not going to get a third opportunity. Probably couldn't muster up the courage to do that. As I say, Lucas, it's eels are like fish. If you like fish, you'll like eels. If you don't, then I wouldn't bother. I did like Carvalho of Fulham. He's off to Liverpool. Yes, he is. He is off to Liverpool. And speaking of off, I'm probably going to be off now. It's been lovely talking to you guys and bringing you a few stories and getting your take on it and interacting with you. There's a little event that's going on today. Collier Row, E13 events. I don't know whether they're still selling any tickets. I'm not entirely sure. But I'm off to Collier Row Catholic Club, I think it is. Let me just check. I'm giving him a little bit of advertising. As I say, it's E13 events, and it's tonight. Doors open at 6:30. Shows to start at 7:45. As I say, there may or may not be tickets that are left, so I'm not saying everybody go piling up there. Go online, put in E13 events, and make your inquiries. But there's a guy that's going to be there tonight. Obviously, Duke and I will be there. Some bloke called Julian Dix. Yeah, you might have heard of him. Former captain, former left back, and yeah, just club legend, really. And we're gonna listen to him in conversation with Mark Ward. Duke and I went to another such event 2 weeks ago at the in Romford. Really good night. I probably spoke about it in a previous one for those of you that have already know the story. But yeah, we went there. There was Mark Ward was hosting it. There was Stuart Slater. There was Trevor Sinclair. And it was supposed to be Matty Etherington, but his daughter wasn't very well. And I hope that she's on the mend. But he was replaced at the 11th hour by Matty Jarvis. And really good evening. We had a nice little chat with the lads afterwards. Crazy thing is, I got Stuart Slater and Mark Ward's phone number. Crazy. These are 2 guys that I watched growing up, idolized, and I've now got their phone number. It's mental. But yeah, so tonight Wardy's hosting it with Julian Dix. I hope that Wardy doesn't get confused like he did the other week, because what happened was there was a little bit of a warning before it all started, and it was like, could everybody just sort of bear in mind that people have paid good money to come here and listen to these people tell their stories. So just sort of keep the noise at a sort of reasonable level, especially when you're up at the bar, blah, blah, blah. Fine, not a problem. Show's going on. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Wardy, little Scouser, you know, sort of typical sort of Scouse bloke, you know, and feisty. And he could hear someone was chattering away. And he all of a sudden turns around and starts berating someone in the corner and telling him basically, shut up. And it was Trevor Sinclair's wife asking him if he wanted a pint of Guinness and whatever. And he had to offer profuse apologies. He was like, oh, I'm terribly sorry, blah, blah, blah. It was hilarious. Az just jumped in. He says, I say Vlasic to Bundesliga for a season on loan. Team like Wolfsburg or Stuttgart would probably suit him. Yeah. Like I say, I would like to give him an opportunity. Fundamentally, I mean, look, if he got preseason, if he got a couple of preseason games in his preferred position and it just didn't look like it was happening, then that might be an option. But I'd like to at least give him the opportunity, give him a chance, and we'll see what happens. Gatesy, is Duke still recovering from the rolling pin? That was, as I say, that was Jill, that was his mum, and that was a few years ago. I'm not advocating that you should beat your children with a rolling pin. Let's just get that out there. That's nothing to do with me. But I'm going to leave that there. Guys, it's been really good to have this interaction with you. For those of you that are still there, Please don't forget to give your support to the Iron. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Just sit there, guys. I know that you're sitting there very patiently. If I can just ask you to just hang around, as I say, this is in a very, very worthwhile cause, and I would like your help on this. So if you could just sit there, I'm just going to copy and paste and put that in the live chat. So in the live chat is the link to that particular website. It's a Just Giving website. This is a charity that operates in the Newham Borough area, and they're doing good work for families who are struggling to put food on the table for their kids, their loved ones. And I'm in a very fortunate position. I mean, listen, we're all tightening our belt. We're all going through a cost of living crisis, but some of us have a little bit more ammunition to bring to the party than others do. And this is a charity that does a lot of good work for families that are fundamentally struggling. So, guys, if you can jump onto this particular Just Giving page and put a couple of quid in, every little helps. Seriously, if everybody that watches this stream puts in a quid here, a fiver there, whatever, it can go an awful long way for families that are struggling. So, guys, I'd ask you to dig deep. There's no amount of money that's too small. Please be as generous as you can. As always, guys, we thank you very much indeed for your support. And if you haven't done so already, please don't forget to like, comment on, and share this stream onto your social media platforms. Guys, honestly, I say that every time, but I can't impress upon you how much that would help. If you could just go onto YouTube, copy the link for this particular stream and put it onto your Facebook page, put it onto your Twitter page, put it onto your Instagram, put it onto your TikTok, whatever. And someone that's a West Ham fan or a football fan looks at it and thinks, oh, that looks quite an interesting channel, and they seem quite amiable guys, whatever. But maybe they might subscribe, and we grow the channel, and it gets better, and we get more stuff that we can bring to you, whatever. It really does help. Please do. And don't forget, if you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to the channel. As Russ Budden says, give it a bloody good subscribe, and hit that bell icon. So when we add new content, whether we go live or whether we upload something, there'll be a little thing that pings off on your mobile device to say that we've got something on Forge from Iron for you. And as always, guys, we thank you very much indeed for your support in all of this. And you have listened to me whittering on. I'm just going to have a look who we got in live chat. Just saying goodbye, Gaza. Hope you have a good weekend as well, mate. Joan and Adam, hope you are well. Guys, I'm going to end it there. Thanks for joining me, as I say. There's only one thing left to say other than have a good weekend and stay safe. My usual sign out. Come on, you Irons.